Imagine this. You're simmering with frustration and anger because you know something isn't working at your job and it's affecting your team's success. You know that you need to speak up. You understand and you know you need to speak up, but just thinking about having a difficult conversation has your stomach all tied up in knots. You fear backlash, misunderstanding, or worse, a problem employee going from bad to worse. Let's face it, you hate conflict. I know I do. Anybody else out there hate conflict? I do. I don't like conflict. Does this sound at all familiar to you? If it does, don't worry, you're not alone. These conversations are some of the hardest parts of being a leader, yet they're key to real change at the job. Hello, everyone, and hello to those of you who are catching this on the replay. Welcome to today's live session: How to Have Difficult Conversations at Work. I'm Dr. Twanna. I'm an executive coach for Black women. And today we are going to break down exactly how you can tackle these difficult talks confidently, as well as use them to actually build trust and advocate for yourself and your team to make a positive impact, right? So whether it's addressing performance issue with the problem employee, it's this one, right? Or even discussing missed deadlines, right? Discussing those missed deadlines, or just even confronting your manager about his or her lack of support. These difficult conversations can really feel stressful and intimidating. But here's the truth: avoiding these discussions only leads to more frustration. And that's what you want to avoid at all costs. The problem is that difficult conversations are often loaded with tension and defensiveness. And we want to be liked. We want people to like us, and we don't want to be all upset and angry with people. So we don't want to tell people what to do all the time, right? These conversations, they're actually tricky because they involve sensitive topics like performance or the lack thereof, or accountability or the lack thereof, right? So it's natural to feel uncomfortable and uneasy. And yet, if these discussions aren't handled carefully, they can actually harm relationships at the job and lead to even more conflict. So, why does any of this even matter? Think about it. If we leave things unsaid or unresolved, it impacts not only our well being, but it also tends to impact your team dynamics and ultimately your own success at work. So let's jump right in with tip number one: prepare with purpose. Pop over here. Let's see. There we go. We're talking about prepare with purpose. So, defining your goal and anticipating responses helps you to approach the conversation with confidence. An executive that I work with faced the challenge of confronting her manager about a lack of support that was actually not just impacting her, but it was impacting her team's productivity. Now, in our coaching sessions, she actually took time to clarify what her goals were. And that's important because it's kind of nervous going to your boss like, you ain't doing your job. It's not what you're going to say, but it's probably what you might be thinking, right? But specifically, she wanted to secure more resources for her team and gain a commitment to regular check-ins with her manager. And by entering that conversation with a clear purpose, as well as understanding potential reactions, she was able to advocate effectively. She advocated effectively for her team without straining her relationship with her manager. It's like a win-win, right? And tip number 2, you want to create a respectful environment. Okay. So setting the tone right from the start encourages open and honest dialogue. So a director that I coached decided to address a really difficult issue with the team member over coffee rather than in the office. By choosing a neutral location and beginning with appreciation for the employee's contributions, she actually set a relaxed, respectful tone that allowed both of them to discuss the issues openly and collaboratively. Okay. Now, number 3, yeah, right? We got number 3. Stick to the facts, right? Just stick to the facts, but you also have to, at the same time, simultaneously acknowledge the emotions involved. You gotta acknowledge the feelings involved. Focusing on observable behaviors rather than personal attributes or attacking people personally, it keeps the conversation productive, right? And it's also important to be aware of the emotions, because if you ignore the emotions, this can lead to resentment and misunderstandings. Now, Shirzad Shamin with the positive intelligence, and I'm a positive intelligence coach as well. He often talks about 2 channels. There's a data channel and there is an emotional channel. So the data channel is what you observe, the facts. Like, here's the facts. Like I said, nothing but the facts, ma'am. They're all the facts. But in the emotional channel, that's actually where people normally spend a lot more time, in that emotional channel. So if you ignore emotions, then you come off feeling insensitive. And I know this because I had to learn this as a young lieutenant in the Army. You care about people, but when you don't attend to the emotional channel, people see you as insensitive, uncaring, unfeeling, and not really caring about them. And then it comes off as if you're only concerned about yourself. So, yes, you want to stick to the facts. You don't want to personally attack people, but you have to acknowledge the emotions and the feelings there. Right. So, a client that I had ignored an issue for almost too long. And that was also the problem I had when I first started out. I don't want to do conflict and maybe everything would just work out if I don't say anything. Nah, that never happens. It almost never happens, right? So now she actually had to address all of the missed deadlines. And rather than saying, you're not reliable and you're screwing up my team, she may have been thinking it, but it's not what you can say to an employee. She actually shared specific incidences of delays and how it was impacting the team's workflow. So while she stayed factual, she also acknowledged her team members' frustration, the frustration about the workload, which really helped them to feel understood. And what happened was, this balanced approach of approaching the facts while also respecting the emotions involved allowed them to actually focus on solutions, and it actually strengthened their working relationship. Okay. So, number 4, if you have questions or comments, always feel free to drop those in the chat. I always come back and I answer those. Even those of you who catch this on the replay, I invite your questions because I always circle back to answer your questions, right? So, tip number 4 is practice active listening, right? I can't remember what TV show it was, but psychologists talk about this, right? When you're talking to someone and their feet are pointing toward the door rather than pointing at you, you kind of get the feeling that they just want out. They really don't care what you're saying. And that's like a telltale sign that you're not actively, or that person is not actively listening, right? So you do want to do active listening with your ears and with your whole entire body. Active listening is truly listening to hear, rather than and instead of listening to respond to them or to defend. A lot of us are guilty of this. The whole time somebody's talking, we're formulating our response, or we're formulating our defense. When you do that, you're not actively listening. You got to listen with your ears and with your whole body and your attention, right? Because when you do, this helps you to understand the root of the issue, and oftentimes they're rooted in that emotional channel, right? The feelings channel. And so, a senior manager in my executive coaching program actually had to deal with addressing a colleague's repeated resistance to a new workflow, right? So instead of pushing her agenda, she actually listened carefully and discovered that the resistance stemmed from a genuine concern about how this new workflow would impact the team's productivity. This is a new insight she hadn't even thought of before, right? And this actually led to a valuable compromise, and it led to success for that workflow. They were able to implement it without all of that resistance, right? And the last one, number 5, focus on solutions and not just problems, right? Focusing on solution creates a pathway for growth, while focusing solely on the problems can stall progress and lower morale, especially for people that are operating on that emotional channel, right? They feel like they're already beat up, and you coming in and you're hammering the problem. They feel even more put up on, or even more beat up, and they lose morale. And they really don't want to hear what you got to say, all right? And again, I know this because that was the leader I was. That was the kind of leader I was when I started. I mean, I got so much better, but those things were the things that I missed as a brand new leader. And then sometimes we try to figure out why people don't respond to me. I'm a nice person. Why they don't respond is understanding how to approach folks and how to get into that emotional channel to tease out feelings as well as get done what you need to get done. So one manager that I coached, she actually struggled with a team member who frequently missed deadlines all the time, just constantly missing deadlines. So after discussing the issues openly, they actually co-created a timeline with clear check-ins, which didn't just resolve the problem, but it also motivated that team member by showing that their growth and success mattered to the manager. And that's all it took. Again, we oftentimes, I approach things from the data channel, but many times your team members, your direct reports are in that emotional channel. And once you address that along with the data channel, you tend to have success. Right. So by shifting focus to solutions, the manager actually inspired accountability and a positive way forward. Right. So when you approach difficult conversations with purpose, respect, a solution focused mindset, you not only improve relationships, but you also build resilience for handling these high stake situations. So now I don't know about you all, but I have social anxiety. It was way worse, when I first became a leader. And also I'm an introvert. So I avoid conflict like I tried to avoid the plague, right? And so, I know some of you are out there thinking like, but what about those moments when the pressure is on and staying focused and intent and having these conversations just seem nearly impossible? Don't worry, I got you covered. All right. I want you to check out my video. Stay focused under pressure with these 12 proven strategies.